Good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here to our Training Manager Symposium, Introduction to Course Certification. My name is Jeff Dunn. I'm the primary instructor for this presentation. I have a couple colleagues from Post who will be helping today. We'll be doing pretty much all the responding to your chat questions through the Wahova app or through the Zoom chat here. Alan, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi everyone, Alan Soroka, Post Region 6, which is San Mateo, Santa Clara County, Santa Cruz County, Monterey County, and San Benito counties.
All right. Matt?
My name is Matthew O'Dean. I'm Region 7. I'm Riverside, San Bernardino, Inyo, and Mono counties, and the LA Sheriff's Department.
All right. Is Ralph on with us today, our Bureau Chief, Ralph Brown? Didn't know if he was
Don't see him yet.
Okay, all right. Well, as you can see, this is an abridged version. We normally teach the training administrator course in a 12-hour format, or at the very minimum, a 4-hour online format. So we're going to speed through quite a bit today as we go through the introduction to course certification. As I mentioned, my name is Jeff Dunn. I have Region 4, which is the Greater Central Valley. And at any time after the Training Manager Symposium, if you have questions about your course certification, I would encourage you to reach out to your regional representative, your regional consultant. For those of you that are new to training management, either within an agency or as a private presenter, if you're not sure who your regional consultant is, you can go to our website, post.ca.gov at any time and click on the regional consultant map, and you will have the name, photo, and contact information for your regional consultant. So I'd like to start off by kind of getting an idea of where we are. And I'd like you to just very quickly select from this poll that I've just launched, which blocks of course certification do you have the most questions about? And you can choose all that apply. There is an all of the above button at the bottom. And for those of you that are brand new to EDI, and I see some people are already using that not sure it's all new to me feature, just kind of give me a little insight on where to spend our limited time on as we go through today. And so I'll leave that up for just a minute while we're talking about this. But we're going to be talking about all aspects of course certification. As you can see, once you submit your poll or drag it out of the way of the slide, you can see that first phase is really that finding and creating the course and moving forward with getting your course certified. And then we have that second phase where, okay, you've got your course certified, now what? Some things you still have to do. And then the third phase, the ongoing maintenance administration of your course. Now, depending on your experience and when you came into the training management arena, you may be jumping in at any one of these phases. So some of you may have inherited some pre-existing courses, and you're already in phase 3 dealing with the ongoing administration and maintenance of your courses. We're going to go through. So I'm going to end the poll, and I'm just going to let you briefly see some of the results. So it's kind of spread across the board. We had a good number that it's all new to you, a good number that's all of the above, which is totally fine. And then a few about the course outline. I do want to say on the second one down, course instructors, where I added in resumes and resume builder. We don't have a lot of time to spend on the resume builder function in today's presentation. We did supply links to some learning tutorial videos that are very helpful to you as well as your instructors when they need to build their resume in our resume builder system and submit it to you as the training manager or course administrator. So we're going to continue on as we go through. Thank you very much for applying with that. Again, talking about phase 1, we're going to talk a little bit about finding and creating. One of the things you need to know is that on behalf of your agency or your company, if you're a private presenter, you really have to let us know who's reaching out to us. We oftentimes get cold calls or emails from people that say, hey, I want to build this course, when they really have the authority or the approval of their agency. So it is important that we know who's reaching out to us, who's contacting us to move forward with this new course idea. Also, it's really incumbent upon you to make sure that the training that you're moving forward with us does reflect your agency philosophy. We can compare it and make sure it's in the standards with the penal code, with post regulations, with common professional standards, et cetera. But we really are not familiar with all of your agency philosophies. So that is something that we do want to bring up, that you or someone in your process has verified that it meets, is not in conflict with your policies or procedures, and that if you have any internal approval requirements before you move forward, that you've met those. So when a training manager, a course administrator reaches out to us, we just kind of have to go on the good faith that you have the authority to move that forward. We also will be discussing, or when the consultant is talking with you about that initial course idea, who has the expertise, who's going to be your instructor. One of the things that we like to use as one of our resources is our course catalog. So I'm hoping that most of you are somewhat familiar with that. When you're looking at especially new courses, we want you to really review our course catalog. And you can get through it through our homepage. But as you go through, you can search by courses by using the alphabet blocks across the top, or by the presenter. Because sometimes you may not remember the exact name of a course, but you know that Fresno PD put it on, or Reading PD put it on. So you can always switch to presenter information and look up the presenter and then see all of their courses to help you find the one you were looking for. We also will talk more about this as we go into creating our course and selecting titles. The course catalog will help you as you begin to build your brand new course by helping you select a title, helping you see what post plans others may already have, what course descriptions they're using, how many hours. One of the common questions I get is, hey, I want to do this class, but I don't know if I want it to be 4 hours or 8 hours or 16 hours. You can use the course catalog to see what this among your peers and other presenters around the state that already have courses of that nature approved by POST. One of the things we really want to stress is before you move too far forward or start building things in EDI, really you need to reach out to your POST consultant. Now, for those of you that may be dealing with a managed program, such as some of our grants and other issues, you may have a program manager consultant instead of a regional consultant like Alan, Matt, and I. So whoever that's going to be, please reach out to your POST consultant or POST contact first. We're going to have some initial conversations with you. And again, these aren't necessarily deal breakers. They're part of the conversation that we need to have as we move forward. And one of the things we're going to talk about is kind of the unmet ongoing need of your proposed training. If your area has a ton of those courses, we're going to be asking, why do you want to build your own? Why do we want to certify another one? Again, years ago, some of you may remember that was a big deal breaker in the course certification process. Under our current philosophy and our current administration, it is no longer an immediate deal breaker, but it is part of the conversation. Also, we want to discuss with you in that initial meeting is, what is your expectation of reimbursement from POST? So if you come to us expecting your course to be fully funded, backfill approved, et cetera, by POST, we're going to have a realistic expectation, a realistic discussion with you about what you can expect. So sometimes I get people to say, hey, I just want a CPT credit. I don't want any reimbursement. Okay, good. We can work with that. But I do have some that really want us to provide all presenter costs. Although we do have a number of POST plans and a number of options to provide your presentation costs directly to you, or reimbursement for tuition to the agencies, not all courses qualify for that. So we want you to know from the very beginning at that initial discussion what you can expect from us on what we are most likely going to approve. Excuse me, what we are most likely going to approve as far as this level of reimbursement. Also, we want to make sure it adds to professional development. I know the goal is to be in compliance with CPT at the end of the 2-year cycle, and that is a very good goal to have. We greatly appreciate that. But we want to make sure that your course does add to the professional development. And I like to use the example of, although many of your officers, your frontline patrol officers, may need to know how to change a car tire, we're probably not going to certify a class to teach your officers how to change a car tire and give them CPT credit for that training. So we want to make sure that it does add to the professional development of law enforcement. And as I mentioned, kind of tagging along with that unmet ongoing need discussion is the number of presentations already certified. So we will be asking, why don't you want to use the one down the street at your neighboring agency? And sometimes there are very good reasons to not be able to utilize that presentation and move forward with your own. And we can discuss that during that initial conversation. Again, one of the things you may want to also make yourself familiar with is our course certification regulations. By going to our homepage, there's a quick resources tab, and then post regulations. Oftentimes people still refer to it as PAM, Post Administrative Manual. So you will hear some people using that terminology. And most of the course certification regulations can be found in the area of 1051 to 1060. Obviously, there are other additional regulations that we'll be talking about throughout this morning's presentation, but that's really where you want to start, especially if you're new to course certification and course creation. As you begin to prepare, so you've met with your consultant, you've talked with them, maybe met with them in person or had a whole lot of emails back and forth, whatever the case may be. You want to try and get all of your documents together. We've already had some questions before we started a little bit about the expanded course outline. And we want to make sure that due to our current standards and regulation 1052, that your outline does comply with that as far as your presenter name and your presenter number, course name or title, and the number if you know it. Many of your new courses, you will not know the course number until the end of the certification process, but there are some where you will know the number at the very beginning. If you do, we would encourage you to add that number to the outline, although that course number is not mandatory in the initial stages. Also, make sure that you're ready to put page numbers at the bottom of the page. The aesthetics of where you put it is really up to you, but we would like it at the bottom of the page somewhere. And a revision date. More and more, as we've gotten so many more Public Records Act requests and questions about course presentations, we really need that revision date. Now, there's a difference between a revision date and a creation date. So some people will put a creation date, and that never changes. The course was created 10 years ago. That's what the answer is. That's what the creation date will always be. But we really want the revision date so that we can see when somebody last went over this outline, the CCO, with the proverbial fine-tooth comb to make sure that it's contemporary, relevant, in compliance with all current laws and regulations and things like that. Also, we'll be talking about the hourly distribution. For the most part, that is up to you and your instructors as far as how much time you dedicate to each topic. And we'll be talking about how to format that in the EDI later. We generally will not challenge too many of your decisions on how many hours you allocate to a particular topic unless we see something that is really a red flag. So if you're teaching a highly technical arrest control technique or some critical firearms training and you have 25 students and your hourly shows you only allowed 5 minutes, that's probably not going to be a good answer. So we would have those discussions with you. Also, another key thing is your resumes, your instructor documents. We are using the resume builder feature. It can be accessed from our homepage, and your instructors can access it from our homepage at any time. I do want to let you know, for those of you that are familiar with the old school data entry resume, that is still an option at this time. However, we do encourage you to have all of your instructors transition over to the resume builder and really begin to use that feature, because the option to add in data entry resumes from the old worksheet forms is going to go away. At some point, EDI will be updated. That will no longer be an option for you to type in your instructor resumes like some of you have done for many years. So please start to get everybody used to the resume builder. And for you as a course administrator or the training manager, for you to start getting used to the resume manager aspect. We've already had some questions about outlines. We are not going to be spending a lot of time talking about exactly how to build an outline. We're going to talk about some generic needs of it, requirements of it. So our new expanded course outline does have the statement of purpose or course purpose, a brief paragraph at the top of your expanded course outline, which is abbreviated ECO. Learning outcomes are optional, and we're going to show you a chart here in just a moment to talk about more of those. For our Certification 1 courses, you can have your outline to the 2nd level of detail. The standard for many years is everything had to be to the 3rd level of detail. And so for certain courses that fall under what we call Certification 1, you can get by with a 2nd level of detail outline. Some of the documents we made available through the training symposium system were some examples of course certification outlines, and they would include some examples of the outline or assessment type learning activities that we would want to see in your outline. So we have provided some of those documents through the WAHOVA symposium platform. And if you need them later, you can always reach out to your regional consultant. So one of the other documents that was made available, and again, your consultant can always provide it later, is a simple comparison chart for Certification 1 and Certification 2 courses. And I'm not going to read everything over it line by line. As you can see, everything, both courses training needs assessment. One of the post plans, keep in mind, if you are seeking reimbursement, it's going to have to be a Certification 2 or Cert 2, because Certification 1s are going to be Plan NA, meaning we will not be reimbursing for those. Of course, we need instructor resumes for everything. The outlines, keep in mind on the Cert 2, where I put the red rectangle, the level of detail must be the minimum at 3rd level, and or learning objectives are desired, but you can either go to the 3rd level of detail or write your outline with the use of learning objectives. You do have to have learning activities and learning assessment, whereas they are optional in the Cert 1s. Minimum topics, again, this is where there's a lot of confusion on outlines. The vast majority of courses do not have to meet specific minimum topics. Usually we see when there are legislative mandates, or you can see there, if you're going to use learning objectives, you do have to have topics so we can match them up with the learning objectives. So we do see a majority of our presenters using outlines to the 3rd level instead of learning objectives for that minimum topic issue. But a lot of your courses do not have specific minimum topics, which is why you can look at 2 courses with the same title and they will have very different outlines as far as the content. They'll all be in the same ballpark, so to say, but the content may be very different because the course title doesn't have mandated minimum topics required. Again, for the Cert 2, you have to do both parts of the hourly. The standard at the top is very generic, tells us how many hours, days of the week, how many hours per day, etc. And then part 2 is where you get into the hour by hour, where you see 8 to 8:30 is topic 1 with the instructors, 8:30 to 8:45 is topic 2. And I say topic 2 because we really need those hourly topics to match your outline. Most of you use a Roman numeral system. Some people have used letters, but Roman numerals is the most common. So all of those main headings, such as Roman numeral headings, we have to see in the hourly. We do not need to see all of these subheadings, subtopics that are on your outline on the hourly distribution document. Budgets, we will be covering more about budgets. Some generic things right now. If Post is going to be providing reimbursement for training presentation costs, or if your per day average is over $125. So if you have a 1-day class that's, let's say, a Plan 4, we are not reimbursing tuition. Charge up to $125 and not need to submit a budget document. If you are doing one of the other plans where we are covering presentation costs, reimbursing tuition, etc., then you would need a budget, regardless of the dollar amount, because we're using state funds to pay for that. And then safety plans, typically our Cert 1 courses do not have them, but our Certification 2 will have a safety plan if there's any type of manipulative skill. Oftentimes people refer to them as psychomotor skills. And I always kind of like to look at it as Are you doing something where somebody can get hurt? And that could be role-playing scenarios, etc. Some people think it's always just driving, arrest control, and firearms courses. No, that's not an accurate description. Basically, anything that there is a manipulative skill or where somebody could get hurt. Now, let's face it, even in an academic course where you're sitting at a desk watching a PowerPoint, somebody could trip over a cord, somebody could get a paper cut. Those aren't the type of injuries we're talking about to require a safety policy. It's those more interactive, manipulative skill type things where we would require a safety policy. Talking a little bit more about the expanded course outline, you as the training manager, you as the course administrator, may or may not be the one designing the outline. It really should be your expert or your instructors who are building your outline. Also, your internal review process. Course posts, when you submit it to us, our consultants will review it. Sometimes several consultants may be involved depending on the topic. But on your side, we really need to rely on you to make sure that any internal review has been done.
Sorry. Oh, thank you.
Whether that's your training sergeant or all the way up to chain of command to command staff, that is really up to you. And again, I can't reiterate, we really want to make sure that it does adhere to your philosophy and your agency policies. We used to say save your outline to any format. Now we have to say almost any format. The .rtf, the rich text format, is really no longer an option because what we found is due to SB 978 and the requirement that we publish your outlines, the RTF format really didn't play well with our posting of those websites. It tended to make everything all get unorganized and shifted everything around. So we really, our system will no longer accept RTF documents. If you have an existing course that was built in RTF, you don't have to automatically change it, but the next time it does go in for a modification and an update, then the system will require you convert it to a doc or docx type format, as the RTF will not go back into the system. Again, the hourly talks a little bit about that. It should be created by your curriculum designer or your instructor. Those main topics, Roman numerals. You decide the effective time to instruct those blocks. The topics on your hourly should match the outline. The way I review courses is I bring up your hourly, I bring up your outline, and I just go down first and make sure all the headings are there. Because if you're missing some headings, I know it's going back to you for a fix. And again, this level of detail is not required for Certification 1 courses. Safety policy, we've talked a little bit about that, the psychomotor skills. You can find our publication Student Safety and Certified Courses by going to our website under Publication Guidelines and clicking on the S tab for Student Safety. Also, I draw your attention to 2019-28 and 39 bulletins regarding some of the safety policy. And we'll be talking about some other bulletins that are coming up here recently as well on some of those. Budget, you can look at our different post regulations and bulletins for the plans. Notice that on that top line, it says any plan, 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, and 7. Plan 2s really aren't that available right now. They're very rarely used, but they are still in regulation. All Plan 5 contracts cover presentation costs. And those will require budget. Our new plans that are online are Plans 6 and 7. And although many of you, like myself, thought when backfill reimbursement went away some time ago that it would never come back, some backfill is available now, options, and we'll be showing you a chart on that here in just a minute. Please be familiar. You're probably familiar with the reimbursement suspension that was in effect for quite some time. It went away earlier this year. Please look at Bulletin 2019-40, and that will give you all the courses and what their current level of plan approval is. So if you're looking to build a new course, you can look down that bulletin list of titles and you will be able to see what plan will be approved for that particular course. You can also go to the regulations relating to reimbursements on our homepage, Regulation 1015. We'll also be talking about Regulation 1054 as it relates to reimbursements as well. This chart is straight out of Regulation 1015. It is a good, easy to use resource for looking at the plans. Again, I do want to point out Plan 2 is very rarely used at this time. In fact, it may go away in the future. So notice that the 1s and 2s as well as the 7s do offer some backfill for specific courses. Of course, Plan NA is the no post reimbursement. Those are courses that are only going to qualify for CPT or perishable skills if you certify them as a Plan NA. We're seeing a lot of increases in Plans 5, 6, and 7 because there's a lot of advantage to you as a presenter for us to reimburse directly for presentation costs and go from there. And that's that bottom line where it says training presentation costs. You can look at those specific regulations in the 1015C area for more details on those plans. That's where we pay you as the presenter direct, so you do not charge a tuition fee for your attendees. So really some good options are back online right now and going in there. And again, this chart is directly from a regulation. Notice there at the top where it says Plan 6, we do have up to $25,000 per course to meet some regional needs. So these are a lot of more remote areas that are basically more underserved as far as training availability. So we do have some funding available to travel courses to you for those of you that may be in more remote or outlying areas where training isn't as readily available as it is in more densely populated areas or regions. A good rule of thumb is try and get all of this ready. So you start off meeting with your consultant, you started getting your resumes, your outlines, thinking about the hourly, the budget issues, the safety policy issues. Really try and have it all ready to go in one central location, whether that's with an instructor, with a training manager, with you as a course administrator who's going to build the course in EDI. But it really will make things a lot easier for you once you start building your course in EDI to have everything ready to go. With that being said, you can start without everything if you want to get a head start on it for the best interest of time. But it's just remember to save draft or save incomplete. Otherwise, you'll be doing work multiple times before you save it. We like to remind everybody 60 to 90 days. So you've met with your consultant, you're going to start trying to present your course, you're going to get built and approved. Please give us 60 to 90 days. In all honesty, we can get it done faster than that in most cases, unless there are additional questions or issues where we have to go back and forth between us and you. We can generally get it done in less than the 60 to 90 days. Oftentimes, in my law enforcement career, I started as a reserve and then as a chief. So I've been to a lot of chiefs conferences, and with Post, I've worked with a lot of chiefs and command staff. And a lot of times they don't understand this time frame. So please let them know that even Post is saying, you can't contact your Post consultant and say, hey, we're going to present this training. We want it Post approved. And oh yeah, by the way, we're presenting it next week. That's not going to happen. We need time to get this built. But again, 60 to 90 days is enough time unless there's some really crazy problem. But we really want to make sure that everybody has a realistic expectation. Again, not all training has to be approved by Post. So if you want to present some training next week, be my guest. They just won't get Post credit. So if you present it while we're moving forward with the certification process, you can do so. And it'll still be great training, but it just won't qualify for any reimbursement or CPT credit from Post. We cannot backdate. So you can't come just say, hey, we taught this class last week and it was the exact same content and we want to get credit. Sorry, we cannot do that. But if you want to present it without that and just get to training, be my guest. I've had several agencies do that because they had a very set timeline and they started the process too late. to get it certified for that initial presentation. So just be aware that is an option. But I just want to put it out there. We cannot backdate things. So logging into EDI, and this is where I want to mention that some of you may have a second device handy or do a split screen. I'm going to be switching live to EDI for showing you course creation from start to finish in EDI. If you want to follow along in EDI and log in and create a sample course, feel free to do so. Sometimes some of you may have run into this where if you zig when you should have zagged and you click the wrong button, EDI may lock you out for 15 or 20 minutes. If that happens to you, I can't wait for it to unlock and continue on. My presentation does have to continue. You can go to our website, log in through PostPass, or direct via edinet.post.ca.gov. And if you're on our homepage already logged into Pass, you can go to the homepage, the house icon. There's a tab for Post Sites, and you click on EDI. PostPass really is the way to go. It gives you access to so many post resources without having to log into everyone. So I'm going to switch here to EDI. I apologize, you're going to get some weird looking displays here for just a moment. Let me switch over and get out of all these things. All right. Don't worry, your screen hasn't freaked out. I need to readjust here. Show. So hopefully, and Alan or Matt can confirm, you should see EDI.
Yes.
All right. So my EDI screen will look a little bit different than yours simply because I'm post and we can look at all your agencies. So don't worry if yours looks a little bit different than mine. So I want to draw your attention to the home screen. Oh, it didn't lock me out. That's good. A lot of people skip over this home page. I do want to point a few things out. Under this What's New feature, we will put anything that's current and relevant, contemporary, etc. The PowerPoint presentation that I shared via the training manager system has a different look, and it shows where we published a PRA for one of my counties. So I would encourage you as you log into EDI to take just a quick second and look at this What's New. You can look at the right side of each line. It'll show you the date. So obviously these things have been around, SB 978, Cert 1 and Cert 2. You can find a lot of the information we're going to be talking about right here on your EDI home screen. So feel free to use those resources. Also on the left side of your screen under General Quick Links, you will see your Instructor Resume Manager, quick shortcut to rosters, and a number of resources there for you. Also, some of you, there are two sides to EDI. If you look across the top bar where it has home, mine says personnel and certificates. Some of you may have one side of EDI or the other, and some of you may have both. If you do not have the courses tab, then you do not have presenter access. So sometimes I get a lot of phone calls and emails saying, hey, I can't get into EDI to build my course. It's because you had EDI agency access, which is all the personnel, the appointments, looking at compliance reports and everything else, but you cannot build a course on that side. You have to have presenter access. So for some of you, you may have to request post give you that access. The Contact Us feature is an easy way to do that if you have EDI agency and you need presenter or vice versa. You do not need to reach out to your regional consultant because we cannot up your EDI access. We do not have the ability to make that change for you. It does have to come from our EDI working group. So if you reach out to us, we're going to have to forward that on to others at our office. So you've done everything we've talked about. You've worked at your agency. You've got your course going. Now you've got everything ready. You've got your outline, your resumes. You're ready to build your course in EDI. You're going to come in here to courses. You can either go straight from the courses tab or the course page. We're going to go to certification and modification. Notice there's two sides, the new course request and existing courses. I would encourage those of you that are new to look at your existing course side and see what you inherited. So you can scroll down here. You can see Post has 62 active courses. We have a couple pending presenter completion, meaning our staff are working on some things. And so you can see what's going on at your agency. Also on the new course side, you can see here, I like leaving these in here for good training visuals. It shows fiscal year 20 all the way back to 16. So I was teaching a class a couple weeks ago, and somebody had a pending presenter completion course from fiscal year 13. So as a training manager, we'd encourage you to go in there and look at those and clean those up. And I'm going to show you how to clean them up when we get done with this. So we're going to add a new course. You have two options. You have regular and post multimedia. You're probably not going to be doing anything with post multimedia unless you're doing some contract work with Post. So you're going to click on regular, and you're going to bring up this box or this chart of boxes. You do have to go through. This is one part of our training needs assessment type process where you're going to demonstrate the need. Now to save it, I have to click all the boxes. Now, in the interest of brevity and the short time frame of this class, I'm not going to read over all the lines with you. But one thing here on item 10, you do have to put in your consultant's name and a date that you talk to them, because we want to be able to look back and say, okay, you wanted to build this course. Who'd you talk to at Post? We want to know who you talked to. Maybe your regional consultant, maybe one of our project managers from courses, somebody else at Post. It doesn't matter. We want to know who it is. So just put in their name. And again, we remind you, hey, give us 90 days. I want you to have that realistic expectation. I would rather have you be happy that we got it done in 25 days than have you be mad thinking we were going to get it done in 25 days and it took 75. So then you're going to agree, or if you're not sure of all the answers, you can submit later, but I'm going to agree. And it's going to bring you to this screen for selecting titles. You can search titles, option 1. You can go by option 2 is a new option. Some of you that have been in EDI for a while probably haven't seen much. It's a new option. You can search by the course control number. So if you know what kind of course number you want, you can search by that. You can go by categories. For our training sample today, I'm going to enter a proposed title. And I'm just going to put symposium in my last name. If you were following along in EDI and you want to create your own course to practice, feel free to do so. Just enter your last name in the new proposed title and then hit submit. Notice there's an asterisk below it. Just because you pick a title doesn't mean we're going to agree with it. So we reserve the right to change it later. But you can put anything in there. And you're going to come here to the course administrative page. This is one of the blocks that we kind of had earlier on that poll. Going to go through this. You have the Cert 1 and Cert 2. Majority of courses are in Cert 2, so it kind of defaults to that. And again, wherever you see these edit, more info, you can always click on those to learn more. Unfortunately, I don't have the ability to, or time to go through all of them today. But feel free to fish around. You're not going to hurt EDI. You're not going to mess up your system. You're not going to crash your account. The worst you'll ever do is lock yourself out and then go have a cup of coffee and come back in about 20 minutes and it should unlock on its own. If it stays locked for longer than 45 minutes, you can reach out to Post and we'll make sure there's not some other issue going on. But I really have never had that happen. Notice the course number is not an option for me to fill out. It's because my name does not exist in the list of pre-approved titles, so it doesn't populate. Post has to assign that number later. You can put in a secondary title. I'll just put in TAC, Training Administrative Course. That's normally what I teach this content in. But you do not have to have a secondary title because there's no red asterisk, so you can choose to leave it blank. Course description. This is what is going to show up in our course catalog. So if it's going to meet a mandate such as PSP, or it's going to meet some other legislative mandate, it's going to meet the penal code and regulations for rifle training, you would want to put this in here. Now, some agencies we'll put a website in here. If you use a particular website or a particular email where you want all of your prospective students to register, you can put that in here. Otherwise, it will default to them calling your course admin or your agency direct. So if you have, I'll use a State Center, one of my training presenters, they put in their registration link. So it takes the student directly to their registration link to sign up for any given course. So you can do that. Just a word of caution, if you put a particular person's name in there, please remember to update and modify your course if that person no longer has that responsibility. A lot of times people put a personal email or an agency email for a particular officer, and then that person retires, but they don't change it. Then that dead email account's getting all these emails. It just goes on and on. So you do have to put something in here. So I'm just going to put test. So I have something in there. The fiscal year will always default to the current fiscal year, generally about April, May, and June. If you're building courses that you know are going to be in the next fiscal year, you can change it. So, but generally you don't need to. They will roll over each fiscal year. A variable format. Some of you have variable formats. Some of you are wondering what in the world is a variable format. Our training administrator course is a variable format. I have a 4-hour online, I have an 8-hour in class, a 12-hour in class. So there's 3 variations. If you have a variable format, all variations have to contain the content of the smallest variation. So my 4-hour variation, that content is in all the other variations. Same with your arrest control. If you look at the post-provided template on arrest control or firearms, you'll see there's a 4-hour minimum for PSP. But then the outline also says, hey, if you want to up it to 6 hours, you can add this content. If you want to up it to 8 hours, you can add this content. So if you want to build a variable 4, 6, and 8, you could do so. But all variations have to have the common information as the smallest variation. Otherwise, it would most likely be considered a different course. So I'm going to leave that no for purposes of my example. Participating agencies, please just indicate what it is, like regional law enforcement, public safety dispatchers, something like that. We really don't like the target audience to be your agency only. So classes that are only for your agency, we sometimes have a hard time getting approved. We do want to promote interagency cooperation and regionalization. So we would like it at least to say, regional law enforcement, California law enforcement, public safety dispatchers, whatever the case may be. I have some that are specific to reserve peace officers. So you can enter whatever you would like in there in your target audience. I'll just put California law enforcement. So here's a box that is very misunderstood. You do have to mark it. It's a red asterisk box. Is this course related to dispatchers? Most people will put no because they're thinking it's a law enforcement, peace officer, CPT course. If your course content has any nexus to a dispatcher, please mark the box yes. What this box does is if a dispatcher takes your class and that box is marked no, they can take the class and they'll learn, but they will not get CPT credit because you've told post this course isn't for dispatchers. So for example, if you're doing a mental health class or TAC comm course, you really it is be relevant for dispatchers. If you have a SWAT course or a rappelling out of helicopters type course, probably not dispatcher related for that. So you'd mark no. Or firearms courses, dispatchers really, as much as some of them would like to be armed, most agencies don't arm their dispatchers. So firearms courses typically are marked no. But that is the importance of that box. So if you have, especially in this day of de-escalation, mental health, CIT, et cetera, please use that box appropriately. We default to publishing your course in the course catalog. I'm going to show you a way to keep your presentation from showing as an available presentation, but we do want your courses in the catalog. If for some reason you have a concern over that, you will need to discuss that with your regional consultant. Most of your courses are not going to have contracts. If you do, please just put in the contract number. Those are generally some of the post contracts and things like that. But majority of courses, we have well over 4,000 courses, and the vast majority do not have contracts on there. Some of the mandated information, if you're going to request perishable skills, I'm going to put no on my sample here. I'm going to put yes. If I'm going to select yes, I have to put in which one it is. Or if it's a combination course and has several, you can click all that apply. I'll just put firearms, but you have to tell it. Does this meet a legislative mandate? Notice this does not apply to just generic PSP or CPT. This would be other perishable or other legislative mandates. And you can see the box here. It talks about some of them, of what they are. And if you're going to click yes, you can select the mandate here from the drop-down menu. So I'll just go to this box very quickly, and you would scroll down and select your appropriate box, and I'm going to return. So you would select the appropriate mandate. Same with post-regulation training, except for the PSP or CPT. So I'm going to go ahead and mark no. And again, you would select the specific regulations on those. Standardized curriculum. The vast majority of our courses do not have standardized curriculum. Your consultant will work with you when you have that initial conversation to discuss things if you are using the most current standardized curriculum, if it applies to your course. You can answer these as appropriate. Does it reveal content from a prior core course, such as is it a refresher course, or is it an update where materials change over time? You know, you can say yes. This is really not going to change your certification. We just kind of want to know for tracking. If you're following along an EDI, I would like you to put yes. It does require a safety policy. Otherwise, it will not prompt you to add a safety policy later on in our process. College subventions. I know we have a couple of college presenters in the symposium this year. If you're getting subventions, whether it be financial or materials or something else, then you can mark yes, and you will fill in information on that in the budget document. I'm going to click no. Prerequisite. Now keep in mind there's a difference between prerequisite and enrollment restrictions. A prerequisite would be your student has to complete something before taking your class. So for example, if you're doing a class on search warrants, and your prerequisite is all of your students have to take the online learning portal post search warrant writing tool course, then that would be your prerequisite. Excuse me. And then the day of your class or prior to the start of your class, all of your students would show you that they met that prerequisite. This is different than enrollment restrictions. I encourage most all of your classes. And again, if you are affiliated with a college, this may change a little bit. But I would like enrollment restrictions because this gives you the leverage and us to support you, the leverage to support you. If somebody tries to enter your class and come to your class that you really don't want in there, such as somebody with a particular criminal record or a local gang member or something like that, we generally look, again, it should be something generic. You don't want to say, you know, Fresno PD only or Reading PD only. But generally, I like to see at least something affiliated with a law enforcement agency. You take many courses from CPOA or many of those others, it'll say law enforcement ID required at check-in or to register. This is kind of one of the reasons why, because they have some sort of enrollment restriction to make sure you are affiliated with a law enforcement agency. So I strongly encourage your courses to have this. Now, some of you run courses like a dispatcher basic where you encourage non-affiliated people to attend, then of course you would not want this type of enrollment restriction on your course. But for the majority of our courses, I think it is appropriate to have some sort of a listed enrollment restriction for your class. Projects, descriptions, pretty rare. A lot of those are in courses like SLI or Command College. If you have an affiliation with a college, you would fill in that information. Some of the agency in-house courses are not. We do have a few that that partner with colleges for quarter units or semester units or whatever the case may be, or to get some financial reimbursement from them. So as we move on to the presentation information, how many students are you going to allow? This is what we use for staff-student ratios, for reimbursement calculations, for things like that. The normal class is 25. Again, with conferences, symposiums, the numbers may go up to the hundreds. I see we have 146 people here today. That number is flexible. A lot of our conferences where you have one big guest speaker, you may have 500. If your staff to student ratios need to be such that you only have 1 or 2 instructors, you may have to limit it to 10, 12, or 15 instead of 25. So it's really a flexible number. But again, the average for most academic classes is 25. This is where you're going to tell us how many presentations a year do you expect to do. So let's just say you're going to do one a month, so there's 12 presentations. It does the math, I like that. So we would be on the hook for providing any applicable reimbursement for up to 300 people a year, and go from there. So again, that's the maximum. It allows us for tracking and allocating funds, earmarking funds. But really, maybe you say, yeah, I'm going to allow 25, but I'm really only going to have 20 is probably what I'm really going to have. So I estimate that I'm probably only going to have 204 students a year. So that's where you would fill in that estimate. We're just going to let your consultant and post know, hey, yeah, there may be 300, but in reality, it's probably going to be closer. I do want to point out here, this is a very common area to modify. So we talk about course modifications later. This is one of the most common areas to modify. Either the maximum number of students, or you may find that you need to add presentations later in the fiscal year. So you thought that you were only going to need 12, but now it's coming up on the end of the year, and you're thinking, oh, I used up my 12, I need 2 more. You would bring your course into modification, you would scroll down to this, and you would change that number from 12 to 15, and you would move on. Submit it to post, and it would be approved. Very common, very simple modification. Unless it's a course where we're paying full presentation costs, the regional consultant can finalize that approval. If there is a decent amount of money attached, it does have to go to our bureau chief for final approval. Some of you use offsite, so you may go to your office, to your headquarters for the academic, and then drive to a gun range or a scenario village or something else. You would include this offsite address in here, and that's for tracking travel and per diem. So we would pay travel to the office, and then we would pay the mileage to the training center and back for each day of the class. So that's where this is. I would say this is very rarely used, but it is an option, and that's what it's for, is if you're traveling from one point to another. So the number of rooms and size, some people used to put in the exact size, like it's a block light building, 20 by 40, with lowered false ceiling, and give us all kinds of great details. We really don't need that. So I've got one room, seating for 50. It can be very generic. So if you tell me you've got a conference room with seating for 10, and your max enrollment's 25, well, we have a problem. I had an agency that wanted to up their numbers to 100 for a class, but I happen to know their location only had seating for about 50, so they had to add their new location in there. So just be aware, it is a fairly generic description. Don't go out with a ball tape and measure the building. And you don't need to submit photos either. Presentation methods, it says indicate all that are being used. Please don't check them all, because when we review your course, we look at this first, and then we will need to see in your hourly, in your outline as well, where these things come into play. So if you tell me you're doing role playing, okay, at what point in the class are you doing that? So you may say role playing, but you haven't explained it in your outline, and you haven't accounted for it in your hourly. So there's going to be some conflicting information. Giving just an oral exam to a class is an option. You can do pre-test, post-test. Exercise and activities are very common, whether that's tabletop or polls in the virtual world or different things like that. And if you have something else, there's a free text box where you can tell us what you're doing. Again, my class for this example, because I used my name as the course title, would only be available for Plan NA. If you selected a pre-existing course with a title and number, the appropriate level of reimbursement plans would show area for you to choose from. Again, if you have any questions about the plans, you can click on the plan information and get the chart. This is where you're going to enter your fee. You have to enter something even if it's 0. So if you're charging nothing, then just put a 0. Excuse me. Remember I said the 125 a day. So I'm teaching a one-day class and I'm going to charge $100. I do not need to do a full budget document. But if I think, well, I've got a lot of expenses, I've got overhead, I've got this. So I'm going to say, I'm doing a one-day class and I'm going to charge $189. If you're following along in EDI, feel free to put 0 or any amount. Those of you that are new and have inherited your existing courses, this is probably the second most common area that has to be modified, but generally not as common not as often as the modification box. This course coordinator name is who EDI will send information to, who your consultant may reach out to if there are problems with the course or concerns. So you will probably have to go into, almost put my home number in there. You all calling me at home, my wife would be very unhappy with me. And then your email. And so this is something that a lot of you are gonna have to update. And every time we do a presentation, our inboxes for the consultants get filled up with course modifications. So don't worry, they're very easy. If that's all you're changing, it's a very quick modification. The consultants can work through them very quickly. It's not gonna be some big 30-day drawn out process. So you should go in there and modify it and put your name or whoever the appropriate person is. And this is where we see people that have retired years ago and that email is no longer in existence. And I reach out to the agent and say, well, I've been sending emails to this guy. Oh yeah, he retired 3 years ago. Oh, sorry, you gotta tell us. And then hit save complete. Uh-oh, something got missed. The EDI will tell you things that, so you just scroll down through here and look and see where I skipped something. I forgot which ones I forgot that one. And let's just go with lecture. So again, the methods, you do have to select something, but EDI, once you try to save and there's things missing, I used to try to remember which ones I leave off and I forgot. So if it's a conference or you're using all these different things, you do have to mark them. So then you go back down, you hit save complete because it told me I was missing 2, and then your course admin page is complete, you're good to go. Notice our training needs assessment shows incomplete. It's because you have not uploaded the training needs assessment document. It can be found on our website under forms. Don't worry, it's not like a doctoral thesis. It is a very base type document that you will not have any trouble completing. And if you do have questions, you can reach out to your consultant. So then the next option down here, notice they're not all populated. You have to work your way down, is your instructors. Again, you can still add without the resume manager. This is still an option where you could go in and key it in, type it in yourself. I'm going to use the resume manager, and I'm going to go here, and you can search. You can scroll down your list. If you look and see, we've got a ton of names in here, and go through there. So you can search by last name. I'll just put in mine. Notice we have 2 dones. No relation. So I'm going to view mine. Notice I have three. I want to talk about resume builder here. I have 3 resumes. We encourage your instructors to build resumes specific to the courses they teach. I have one that's kind of my generic, my Jeff Dunn Post one there in the middle that has pretty much all my different instructor related training. Then you notice I have one that is specific to reserve coordinator and one that is training administrator. So it is really a good idea for your instructors once they enter their main or master resume to go in and modify it for you. It does save you time when you're selecting. So this is a training administrator type course, so I'm going to copy it to the course. And notice it's here. I didn't have to type anything in, I just clicked it. But keep in mind, even though I brought it over, it does have, there's one edit that has to be done on all of them. So I could go through and edit mine if I had to, where it says edit personal information or add or edit license, certification, experience, etc. But the one thing that has to be modified or updated is down here in the presenter approval, section 5. So even though you brought it over as a complete resume, you still have to go in here and tell Post who is approving this resume. If you're a first-time user of this feature, your name will not be in the drop-down. You'll have to use the Edit Resume Approver list. I happen to know that mine is in there. So I'm just going to click on mine, and it'll populate my information. If you try and save it to the course without doing this, you will get an error. It won't let you save it because it'll say incomplete, and then you have to go back. So I want to be able to save it complete, so I approved it. Again, generally we do not want you approving your own resume because we like to have a second set of eyes on it from your agency to review it. So in the real world, I'd probably say, hey, Alan, take a look at this, make sure I didn't miss any boxes, and then Alan can approve it, or Matt or anybody else from Post. So I'm going to save complete. You just repeat this. So if you have 5 instructors on here, so I can just go in and add another one. There's Alan. I can view him. And he has 2. He has 2. I'm just going to pick one. And so his is there. Notice his says incomplete because I need to go in and do that approval as I mentioned. So I'm just going to skip. We won't bore you with all the details of Alan's resume. And hit Save Complete. So now I've got 2 instructors on my course. Some of your courses may only have 1, some of yours may have 20. I'd encourage you to put all of your potential instructors on your course. So if you're teaching a firearms course and you're going to need 4 instructors for each presentation, but you have 10 at your agency, please put all 10 in here so we can approve them all at once. It just makes your life and our life a lot easier to put them all in there. Just because you add them does not mean they have to teach. Okay, so adding an outline, the outline has to be created away from EDI. So you've created it in a format other than RTF, as I mentioned earlier. So when you get to the outline, you're going to go here and you're going to browse, which will take you to your list of documents. And I'm just going to pick one. Hopefully that one's not too big. I'm going to open it and I'm going to upload. So I've uploaded my document to EDI. I have an outline. You can see it there. It will not save with the exact same name as you had it in your Word on your drive. It'll always come up as outline. You can always download it and look at it if you want to make sure you got the right one. I want to talk here for just a moment. Please, as you go in here, read the bulletin 2019-19 as it relates to SB 978 and the publishing of outlines. Post is one of the agencies, as are the frontline law enforcement agencies, that are required to post training outlines on our public website. So if you go to our website, go into training, open data, you can see the outlines of all these other courses that are available for you to review and the general public to review. So if you want to redact anything from your outline, such as it's an officer safety issue or it's proprietary information or it's highly tactical, Then what you need to do is read all the information about how to up here in the help document and make sure you have the current redaction request form. Then you click this box and it'll bring up, let me scroll here a little bit. It will bring up where you have to upload the redaction request form. Again, please use the current version of the form. So you would save it on your desk drive or whatever, and then you would upload it just like you did the outline. And then you would upload the redacted outline. The way we want you to redact your outline is go through your document and highlight everything you want redacted in yellow, and then save it, and then upload it here as the redacted outline. Post will review it. We have a bureau chief that is the bane of his existence, is to review redaction requests. He reviews your request document and your actual redacted outline. Unless he has any questions, then he will redact those things fully, as you can still see through your yellow highlight, of course. He'll redact everything fully, and then it'll publish to our website after that. And so keep in mind, if you do a redaction, if you modify any part of your outline, remember to modify the redacted version and re-upload it. If you have inherited a course that has a redaction and you no longer want to redact, just uncheck the box and those options go away. So you just save complete. So I've got my document, I hit save complete. So obviously you can see more things are opening up. I've got to go to the hourly document. This is part 1. Remember, for Cert 1 courses, I said you only had to do the first part. So let's just say it's a 4-hour class. Days of the 1, or days of the class 1, days of the week 1. So some people think, well, Jeff, this is really weird. Why are we answering these questions? So you may have a class that is extended out. So let's say you have a 24-hour class that is taught days of the class 3. So it's 3 8-hour days for your 24-hour class. Days of the week 1. That would tell us that you're teaching that class 1 day a week for 3 weeks. This is what you see with things like SLI or Command College, where they're broken up. So it is common to do that. Some of you have the training day or the fat day where you have more people on schedule, so you can pull them off on a Wednesday or a Thursday or whatever it is, and put them in training. So you may have a 16-hour class or a 24-hour class, break it up. So the days of the class, you may have an 8-hour class that has 4 days. So you may teach it in 4 2-hour blocks, and days per week 4. So you may teach it 4 days in a row, 2 hours each to get your 8 hours. This is where you're going to tell us what you're doing there. So as you go through, you have to save this part, save and continue. For those of you that have Cert 2, which is the majority of courses, excuse me, you have to complete part 2, which is the hour by hour. So this is where you're going to add, we use the military time, so the start time will be 0800 to 0815. Now, if you have small topics that may only need 5 minutes, feel free to put multiple subjects in one time block. So if your first couple things are introduction, registration, whatever, and you're going to cover all of them between 8 and 8:15, you can put multiple topics in one block, in one time block. We don't want to see 8 to 8:05, 8:05 to 8:10. That becomes very tedious for everybody. So you can put those smaller time blocks in one. What we don't want to see is 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., the whole course. Well, we can't do that. You do have to break it up. And so I may just put registration. And then you go over here and select. Notice this is what I mentioned. I have 2 instructors, but let's just say Alan's going to be the only one handling the registration. So I would just click Alan. And that's all he's going to do. And then I would add a new line. And so do it. And I'm going to add my new line. Your new line always starts off where your first one left. So it has to start at 8:15. And let's go to 9:15. I'll just put safety. And then maybe Alan and I will both teach parts of that, because we have to select, and then I'm going to add that line, and I want to add a new one. Again, your new line has to pick up where your last line left off. And so we'll go to 11:30 because I want to get to lunch. We'll just put, tactics, whatever it was. It'd be Roman numeral 3. So this is what I would like to see personally. If you put Roman numeral 3 and then tell me what it is, I can see that it matches up with your outline very well. Of course, I'm having a hard time typing this morning. You don't have to put the Roman numerals in here, but it does make your life easier when you have to go back and confirm that you got all your headings in here. And we're teaching that. I can either click both or I can just hit select all and hit add. Notice I'm not putting in breaks. So in most of your classes, you may take a break every hour or every 90 minutes, whatever it is, and you're going to take that 10-minute break. I always like to tell people to keep it to a real 10-minute break, not a cop 10-minute break, because cop 10-minute breaks become 30 minutes. It's just the way it is. So I'm going to add a new line. The only break we want to see is on your longer classes. You're going to use this here that says break. And it's going to go 11:30 to 12:30, and I'll just put lunch, and I'm going to add it. You don't have to assign a teacher to your lunch because you don't need an instructor to monitor you during lunch. Keep in mind, you have to account for your day. Our training class is 9 hours, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. You take an hour off for lunch, and then you get 8 hours of CPT. We do not provide CPT credit for your lunch break. Does your class have to have an hour lunch? No, I have some that are 45 minutes, or I've had a few that were 30 minutes because they provided lunch on site or whatever the case may be. But when you subtract that break, that lunch period, the other remaining hours have to match up with the approved number of hours, in this case 8. So if I was going to do a half-hour lunch, my class would go from 0800 to 4:30, 16:30 hours. So you just have to make sure that the numbers match. Very common that we see some errors in there. I remember I said EDI will track a lot of your errors. This class is not nearly done, but I can go here to the previous screen and I can hit save complete. The hourly is one feature where you're inputting stuff in like you just saw that will let you save it even if there are errors, such as you have not accounted for all of the hours. So please double check that. And again, that is what we do. We bring up your outline, we look at your hourly distribution schedule, we make sure all those main headings, those Roman numeral topics are accounted for, and then we move on. The safety policy is just like your outline in that it is another document that has to be created outside of EDI, such as a Word document, and then saved to your device and then uploaded. You do have to give it a title. I'm going to be real generic and just put safety, same process. You're going to go to browse. You're going to go find a document somewhere. And then you're going to notice it does collect, it lets you know you can select these other formats, but RTF is a problem right now. Not as much with safety. You can oftentimes get by with a safety policy because safety does not upload to our public access website. So if you were to use an RTF in here, it would accept it. But just for the sake of confusion, I find that it's a lot easier to just be in the habit of always using the Word docs instead of RTF.
I'm so sorry. So sorry.
So then once you've uploaded it, it's saved complete. Hopefully I didn't freeze or something here. Sure, EDI is thinking for a minute. So Alan or Matt, have we had any questions? For some reason this is...
I've been hitting them all in the chat, I believe. If anybody has anything, please.
Apparently the document I chose was a little too big, so it's taken a minute to load. So I'm gonna pick a different one.
Yeah, as you're talking, I'm trying to add a little bit more text to the chat just to kind of support what you're saying.
So Yeah. So if you try to upload a document that's too big, it'll have that lag time like I just saw. I just picked a random document, and unfortunately I picked the wrong one. So now it uploaded, so we should not have that problem this time. I didn't title it. Once you go back, you do have to retitle it. And it didn't save, so I gotta go back. There we go. So you hit safety. Now notice, even though I put 189, which is over the 125 a day, it doesn't make a budget mandatory. You have to go in and add a budget document. So I'm gonna go ahead and run through this. Again, the budget document is probably the most time-consuming aspect. So we're gonna go through it very briefly, and I would encourage you to look at it as you go into EDI, and then work with your regional consultant or your program manager on specific budget issues. But we do allow for things such as instruction, coordinator. I'm gonna put in some just so we get some numbers. So I'm gonna say 8 hours. Notice the rate hours are kind of outdated. We are working on that to see. So I'm going to put in $75. If you try and put anything over 90, it won't let you. So you can add people in. If you have a coordinator that you're covering for, I'll just put Alan. The numbers are preset. So notice the course is 4 hours. It's $55 per 8 hours. So I'm not eligible to get coordinator here, but I can still add it. So Alan's on there as a coordinator, even though I will not get it because it's under an 8 hours. So your course has to be at least 8 hours to get the coordinator fee. You can add in some clerical. Again, you have some limitations on the rate, $15 an hour. I know that is
here you go.
kind of outdated. Notice here that you can put in more hours. So a class that's 24 hours or less, you can put in 24-hour max. So I'll put in 15 hours and we'll give him 15. And it lets you do more hours because prior to the course, you have to do some administrative work. Once the course is over, you still have to do administrative work. You have to do rosters and deal with the evaluations and things like that. So we do realize that there is a fee before and after.
You too, take care. Beautiful yellow.
So when you put in travel, again, you would put in their name. You put in their origin. I'll put Fresno. I'm in San Diego right now. I'll just put travel. And we'll say 125, 2 nights. And then the type, I'm going to put days and then add it. So it'll put in some costs there for you. And you would just put in whatever your destination is. Again, you can put in rental car miles if you're claiming miles, flights if you're obviously using airlines and things like that. So supply, I want to point out this indirect costs. Oops. So indirect cost is for those administrative.
Sorry, Jeff, I muted you. Accidental.
Got it. So this indirect cost is for those overhead. It cannot exceed 20% of A and B. You can edit the percentage. You can leave it at 0, or you can do, update the scale. So let's say I'm just going to do 15%. I'm going to update it. Then I would get $161 for my course for indirect costs for those last minute. Some people don't utilize it. Some people max it at 20. That is an issue that is always being discussed with finance folks, but it is a sliding scale and you just edit the percentage and it's kind of a generic. You don't have a specific line item for that as far as what it goes for. And then for certificates or whatever the case may be, if you're going to provide certificates, this number should not exceed the number of students for your class. We're just getting some inexpensive ones, $1.50. This is an area where if we see certificates and you're paying $25 per certificate, we're going to have some questions. What are you giving the students upon completion as a certificate that costs $25 a piece? So we will ask questions about these budgets as we go through. And you can go through and see, you know, equipment, printing, reproduction, costs, copying costs. I do want to talk about equipment because you can factor in things like a laptop. And so let's say your laptop is going to be, let's just say $3,000. But you don't get the $3,000 per presentation. You need to use this formula. So even though a lot of people go right here, and I'm dealing with a couple of presenters right now that did this, and they wanted a piece of equipment bought for every presentation. So remember I said you may do 15 presentations a year. We're not going to buy you 15 laptops a year. So what you do is you take that $3,000 and you divide it by the number of years. So let's just say $3,000. Let's say it's going to be good for 3 years. So that would take it down to $1,000. And then you would divide it by the number of presentations. So I'm going to use 10 because I like easy math. And that would make my amount $100 per presentation that I recoup towards my equipment costs per presentation. So you would front the money and buy the laptop for your class, and you would recoup your funds through your presentations. Now, if you don't present as many, then you're not going to recoup as much money. Let's face it, if you do more presentations at the end, then you're going to increase a little bit of money. So this is how you account for equipment, those reusable things. I had somebody just purchase some training batons. I've had people purchase laptops and a number of things. You need to use this formula right here to get your per presentation cost. Otherwise, we would be buying you a laptop every single time. Now, if your class is supplying ammunition or simunition, that's a consumable good. You're going to need those live rounds or simunition rounds every single class. So you may need 1,000 rounds at every class. You would not use the formula to do that. You would show a per presentation cost. So now you've gone here. If you had subventions, you would add those in here. You have some other cost options in here if you have to rent a room. So let's say you have to rent a large meeting room, and those large meeting rooms at hotels can get expensive. So let's just say you're going to rent one. It's going to be $1,500. You're going to add that in here. So now you get here, if you have subvention, you would add that in to detract from the amount. So if the college is giving you $1,000 a presentation, it would take your grand total down to $1,873. Notice here, it does the math for you. So my grand total, $2,873 and some change, 25 students. So my tuition is going to be $115. So I'm all done. I like my budget. It's good. It's $115. I'm going to save complete. Oh, that darn EDI system giving me an error. What it says is it doesn't match. So please save draft, because if you delete it, you have to start over. So I'm going to save draft. I have to go back to my course admin. Hopefully you remember that number. You're going to scroll down here where I put 189, and I have to change it to 115, and then I save complete. Oh, slow internet connection here. There we go. And now I go back into my budget, and I hit save complete. Scroll down here, and everything's complete. Notice my training needs still shows incomplete, so my send to post button is grayed out. Once I upload that training needs assessment document, that would become an active button, and I would send it to post. If you're following along in EDI, please do not hit the send to post button if you filled in all the documents. So we've just gone through an entire course certification. through all the aspects of it. So what I want to do is show you the comments. This is how you and your consultant are going to communicate. You're just going to enter your comment. And this is where you can tell us what questions you have when you send us a course. When we have an issue or want you to fix something, this is where we will show you how to fix it. So I've submitted my topic. I'm going to close my course. Took me back to the beginning. Now, if you think, wow, I just lost my course, it would be in fiscal year 20. So if you want to go back and find it, there's my symposium done class, still presenting, pending presenter completion. So I've gone through and done this. So as I said, when we started this, several of you inherited lingering courses in here. What you would need to do is go to the cancel new request. And for those of you that are following along in EDI, if any, please do this with your test course. You're going to go to cancel a new course. You're going to select your course. It doesn't want you to delete something until you're sure. So you do have to look at it. You do not have to open every document. Look at it. Yep, that's the course I want to cancel. Please tell us why you're canceling it. In my case, it was just training. You can put training or practice. Do you still want to cancel this? Yes, I'm sure. Are you really, really sure? And ask again. Yes. Okay, it's done. This course has been canceled. It's out, so you will no longer see it in the pending presenter completion area. Okay. So that's how you cancel those out. Before I switch back to the PowerPoint, I do want to cover two other things. One is presentations. So we want you to schedule your presentations in advance. You would go to your EDI, go to presentations. You would select your course. I'm going to select one that pretty much only I deal with. So if I mess with it, it's okay. I'll do my update course. Notice here it says I have maximum presentations 4 per year. I have 4 remaining. I haven't taught this class yet this year. I want to add a new presentation. So you're going to go in here. I'm going to select a date. Just going to show you how this works. So I'll pick a date. It's a 1-day class, so I need to pick the same date. How many hours? This is more where it's a variable, so it's a 4-hour class. And you're going to pick your location. Now, many of you will have internet or website as an option. I'm going to go ahead and pick our office in there. This is where you tell us where it's going to be. So if you're teaching an online course, you would pick internet, not your business office or address. And you don't have to put a comment in here, but I'm going to put a comment in here because I'm about to create a presentation. So I've added a presentation. Notice here it's pulled. It's presentation number 1 for October 21st, 4 hours. Remember I said we want you to publish your courses in the course catalog. By clicking this box where it says full, it will not publish in the course catalog as an available presentation. So people won't be calling me saying, hey, Jeff, I see you're doing a class October 21st. I want in, okay? This is very useful when you're already filled the class, okay? So I've got a presentation. Some of you inherited pending presentations or you have late rosters because when COVID hit, you canceled a lot of your presentations while we were so new into COVID and we didn't have all the guidelines in place, or CDC didn't have them all in place. So if you have pending presentations that weren't used and are now showing late rosters, you just simply go into cancel a presentation, select the one you want to cancel. And again, we ask for a reason. I'm just going to put test and then cancel the presentation. A lot of people get nervous about this because notice I still have 4 presentations. When you cancel a presentation, you do not lose one of your available presentations. You just lose the number. So notice presentation number 1 has been canceled. So my first real presentation will be 002. So you don't lose the number of presentations. In my example 4 for the year, you just lose the number. So my presentations 2, 3, 4, and 5 instead of 1, 2, 3, and 4. So just something to be aware of as you go through with that. Again, we talked about rosters. You can go in here. I don't have any courses ready to submit a roster on, so I don't have one to build for you. But same thing, you would go in here and you would select a class. I'll use my other reserve one. These are presentations that I've hit. If you had a pending presentation, it would be 004 right here. And in this box, you would get start roster, and you would go through it from there. All right, we're going to switch back to the presentation here in just a second. So I want to go back here, show you a couple things. Again, on the existing course side, if you have courses here in pending presenter completion, please look at them. If you want to add a location, so you're going to teach your class, but it's a new site, you can just use the course location option. Okay, so you can go in here, you can select your course. I'll use my update one. I'm going to use the internet webinar. And I'm scroll down here, all the available locations. I'm going to save it complete. And that will go to our post staff in the office. And then they will get that location approved. So the next time my location is correct, so I'm going to move forward. And it will move forward with that. So if you want to do a location modification or a location add, please use this feature instead of the modify a course. It is much faster to do it this way. If you're modifying the course for other issues, then by all means, select one. So again, if I want to modify a course, you just go into modify a course. Again, this is pending a location. So I'll bring up my other one. The effective date. You cannot backdate the effective date. It can only be today's date or a future date. So if you want to modify it now, or if I want to say next year in January, I'm teaching it a little bit different, I'm changing the content, I can put January 1, 2021. So you have to select a date that is today's date or in the future to move forward. Then it will bring up your course, and you simply go into any aspect of the course that you want to modify. All right. If you want to change your administrator information, like we talked about, many of you at the bottom, or you need to add presentations, this is where you would go. You want to add instructors, or whatever the case may be. This one does have a variable, so it has the generic outline and then it has the online outline. This is what your variable format will look like. If you click that variable format box on the course admin page, you must enter at least 2 outlines. You can't save one and do it later if that box is marked. You can always add more. I'm not aware of a limit. I've seen one course that had about 40 variations. So you can have as many as you want. So any questions on that, you can send them into chat, and we'll be switching back over here. Again, you can cancel a pending modification. I'll cancel that one. You need to view it just like we did before. I'm going to proceed with that cancellation. So I canceled it. So it's very easy to cancel, and you would do that with any of your pending presenter completions if you realize, hey, somebody put them in modification and did not mean to. I would also encourage you to look at your active certifications on your EDI account so you are familiar with what courses you have approved to your agency or your private presenter. So I'm going to switch back to the PowerPoint here. Just a second to resize this. I'll right, back there, we'll get this cleaned up. I'm sure for those of you that are more technologically advanced than me with Zoom, there's probably a better way to do this, but apologize for that as we switch back. So we should be back on the PowerPoint presentation. Alan or Matt, are we good?
Yes.
Looking good,
So
Jeff.
we talked about variable. Again, you must have multiple variables. You can't just have one. As we talked about, each one has the lower amount. The smallest content must be in all of them. There are some options to do a hybrid PSP course where you have one part is all the academics online and the hands-on in person. That kind of came up during COVID. Again, we talked about Resume Builder. We provided some links to the more detailed training because in this presentation, we do not have the time to go into Resume Builder in detail. Also, when your instructor logs into Resume Builder, they will see right here where this yellow arrow is. There is a tutorial video there for them as well. So if you do not want to send them the links that we made available through the Wahova system, they can just view it directly there as well. This is just a Resume Builder link. We also provided the Resume Manager link for you as course administrators and training managers. It's just some screenshots of what they're going to see as they move through the process. For you new training managers, you will see on your EDI homepage some green numbers. That lets you know you have some new Resume Builder resumes for you to look at. Keep in mind, just because somebody submits you a resume in Resume Builder, that does not mean you have to use them as an instructor. Anybody could go in and send, San Diego PD a resume at any time. San Diego looks at it and says, who is this guy? We've never heard of him. Doesn't mean they have to use them. It's just a function of the system. So what I'd like to do here is, and again, I know we've got a lot of time going on, but I'd like to get your, real quick, just off the top of your head, your understanding of some 1070 topics. So if you, some of you again are looking at 1070 going, what in the world is that? But for those of you that may be familiar with 1070, you could take a moment and just tell me, obviously 1070 covers minimum training standards for instructors. So which of these topics below are covered by 1070B? You can choose all that apply. All right, so we'll let that go for just a moment. So I know some of you are answering that, and that's fine. We're going to be showing you the answers here in just a second. I know there's a good number of you on this. And so unfortunately, due to time, I do not have the ability to wait. So if you can go ahead and submit your answers, I'm going to go ahead and end the poll here in just a minute because we want to allow some more time here at the end for question and answers that you may have in addition to those that came in via chat. So I'm going to go ahead and end the poll, kind of show you where it came out. Okay, obviously arrest control was the big winner, driver's training and racial profiling. Those are good. This is where I like to talk about, there are some other very technical issues and officer safety type issues that deal with building search entry techniques and field sobriety tests, doing your sobriety tests, on the side of the road somewhere and doing it safely. Those are important topics, but they're not 1070 covered, meaning your instructor does not have to have a specific instructor training course under their belt to be able to teach those. This is where you as the training manager get to make some decisions. You and your agency make some decisions on who's qualified to teach the FSTs to your people. Who's qualified to teach your building search or building entry techniques and tactics to your people. They do not have to have a special instructor course as outlined in 1070. So I'm going to go on from there. When you're in EDI, you can see the specialized topics here. So if you're just curious what some of the other ones are, for those of you that may not be familiar with 1070, baton impact, chemical agents, motorcycle training, driver's training, racial profiling was on there. Supervisory Leadership Institute, SLI, PT instructors for the basic course, and it's a good list. You can always go to Regulation 1070 on our website and see all of the exacting details of what's required of those. Also, for those of you that may build an instructor course or utilize 1070C, which is our equivalency, you would need to be familiar with Regulation 1082. It covers instructor course topics. So if you're going to compare somebody's non-post training with the 1070 requirements to be, let's say, a firearms instructor, you would have to use the firearms instructor list of content from Regulation 1082 to be able to attest that it was an equivalent training. Again, safety policy, I think we covered that pretty easily. I would draw your attention to our most recent, or one of our most recent bulletins, 2020-51, for some recent updates on the safety policy. So please look at that. You should have all got that notice here recently via post pass. Again, I normally would allow some time to do the safety policy, but we're going to do just a quick one kind of off the top of your head because I don't have time to give you, 15 minutes in class to look at this. But in thinking about safety policy, there are some things in Regulation 1052 that we do require on a safety policy. Above and beyond the page format issues that we talked about, where you have to have the presenter name and number and things like that, page numbers, etc. But the actual content, there's actually only 5 mandatory things. There are a number of others that are best practices and professional standards, but they're not actually mandatory in regulation. So again, just like this one, I'm going to go through a couple things very quickly and go through this. Representative sampling. All right, I'm going to go ahead and end this out of the sake of time, as I know we want to allow some time here at the end for Q&A. And even though the class does end, I will be available afterwards and leave it open for additional questions afterwards. But out of respect for your time. So the kind of the big 3 rules of safety and conduct, reporting and handling of injuries, and the ratios of staff to student. Operation of hours of operation for the training site could be relevant if you're using a public access training facility, but not something that is mandatory in the safety policy. Also, the name number for your training manager is a little bit confusing, because if you look at our next screen, D in the regulation talks about the address and phone number, but it talks about somebody on site at the training center, not necessarily your training manager. So that one was a little bit confusing. And we did have a few people that thought all of the above. And again, although all of the above are good things to have, only those 3 that I mentioned, rules of safety and conduct, reporting and handling of injuries, and the ratio of staff to students are mandatory from this list on Regulation 1052. So as you go to 1052B5 and you look at A through E, you would see, in addition to those page requirements, rules of safety, reporting and handling, ratio, and this is the one that was a little confusing, address, phone number, and contact for each site. So that's somebody's on site where the training manager may not be out at the range or something like that, or out on the driving course. And then the name, location of the nearest emergency room. Keep in mind, for those of you that present in multiple locations, one emergency room may not cover all of your locations. So if you're in a large county, or you're one of our large presenters like South Bay Regional that does an excellent job of presenting over a large geographic area, the emergency room for one part of the region or one part of the area they cover may not be the same as another. So you may have to have multiple emergency rooms listed in your safety policy. Again, budget, we covered that. Anything over $125 a day is going to require. We used to talk about $100. I would direct your attention to Regulation 1052 or 1054, I'm sorry, for other requirements for a course budget. This is the error I showed you live on EDI that is very common. I get a lot of calls and emails saying, hey, I did my budget, but it won't let me save it. 9 times out of 10, this is the issue. Again, if you followed along in EDI, please don't send your sample course to a post. You will get a confirmation screen in EDI that says your course has been submitted to post, and then you can track it on the pending presenter completion or pending post approval, and you can see in what comments we may have made. Once it's on our side, you cannot modify it. If you realize you made a mistake and need something modified, please let us know. We'll be more than happy to send it back to you so you can take care of that. Again, we like 60 to 90 days for those new courses. Couple of helpful things. Please make sure that what you've approved in EDI, we have approved in EDI, is what your instructors are teaching. Please make sure they have up-to-date outlines. A good idea for you to have copies of their handouts and videos. Also, you should be doing some quality assessment of your courses, whether that's by sitting in, talking to students, or doing some sort of a survey, questionnaire, paper, or online. So your course goes on. We talked about presentations. We showed you how to pull a presentation. You can change the fiscal year. So if you want to schedule something in the fiscal year 21 after July 1st, you can do so, but you do have to change the fiscal year selector to go past July 1st. We talked about the full box. I think this is a very underutilized feature, but this is what will keep it from being posted in our course catalog as an available presentation. Showed you how to do the pull the presentation. Course control number, when it asks for the actual course number, it's those 5 digits in the middle. The first part is your presenter number. The last part is the actual fiscal year and presentation number. When we talk about the actual course number, it's the 5 digits in the middle. The whole thing is the course certification number. Again, we like your presentations to be scheduled 30 days in advance, but things happen and they get scheduled the day before, as long as you've got them advertised. Please do not present your course until approved and a presentation has been pulled if you want post reimbursement or post CPT credit. Again, not all training has to be approved by post. So if you want to present it tomorrow, that's great. Your people will still get the training. They just will not get post credit or any reimbursement. Again, phase 3 is kind of that ongoing administration and maintenance. This is where a lot of you have inherited courses. So you may have to do that. You may have to modify some of those things and update them. Again, the rosters, we want them done within 10 days. We used to say they post within 24 hours, but our computer services folks have done a great job with EDI. And now you will see that almost all of the entries, once you hit submit a roster, are uploaded within minutes. Obviously, if it's a huge roster, like a conference that may have hundreds of people, it will take a little bit longer. But for most of your courses that have the 25-ish number, I've seen them upload to the profiles in less than 5 minutes. So just be aware of that. If you make a mistake on your roster, you can go back in and modify your roster. And I showed you from the EDI home to get to rosters. You can also go into courses and down to rosters as well as another way to get there in EDI. Again, 10 days after, once your roster done, we talked about course modification, the effective date. You can always date for the future, but not for no backdating. This is any part of the course other than location. If you modify the course like we showed you, it will put it in an actual modification requiring a cancellation on your part or an action on our part. We kind of showed you how to select the course you want to modify. We talked about the effective date. So if you want to teach the current content for another 30 days, you can make your effective date, November 10th, and then the current content is what you would be teaching, and the new content would take over November 10th. So that's what happens if you change the effective date. So you can get a head start, and this is very common at the end of a calendar year or end of a fiscal year when people change their course content. Modifications, please do not modify your documents such as your outline or your safety policy within EDI. You can download them and then make the modifications, save them to your device, and then re-upload them. If you try and make the change and then resave it direct, the change won't save. You do have to save it to your device as an individual document and then re-upload it. Our system layers them, so it will put your new version on top of the old one. Common question is, how do I delete the old outline? You don't. It's there, it's not going away. You just upload the new one over it. Please use the comment feature to tell us what you did. This is what we will use to tell you what we did and what we need changed to get things going through. We showed you how to do the modification. To add presentations, very easy. Where I went down and changed the location or added the location, you would just change the number of presentations. Again, please use the course location only feature if you're only adding a location. This is not a true modification, meaning the consultant does not see it, does not get sent to us directly. It does go to our staff, and they will ask us questions if there are any concerns. Generally, those are only if you go over 100 miles. So as we wind down, please complete survey. I know that there was a ton of information covered in this presentation in a very short period of time. For those of you that are brand new to EDI, hopefully I didn't scare you away and make you want to give up on EDI or go resign as the training manager. So that was not our intention, but we've got a lot of information through you today. I'm here for question and answer as we wind down in the last 8-9 minutes. If you want me to discuss anything, please let me know. I will try. And I see Alan and Matt have been very busy with chats.
Just as an aside, a reminder for all of you that attended the keynote speaker this morning and didn't get a chance to eval, please make sure to log in and do that eval for the keynote speaker as well. Thank you.
Yeah, please. This all virtual training symposium is brand new to us. And so we appreciate your feedback through those surveys. The link you can see on, or the site you can see on your screen now. So please, as Alan said, please go back for those of you that missed out on the keynote this morning, and please do the one for this presentation. I see that Matt and Alan have provided some resources in there and the eval link is in the chat as well. So again, if you have any questions, there's a lot of you here, 134 still left. I'm here for a question and answer. You can send them in via chat. I'm going to kind of go out on a limb and say if you have the ability to unmute yourself and you want to ask a question, feel free. Unfortunately, I run the risk of 100 people speak at once. So that we'll see if that works. If you can kind of self-regulate it, that would be great. But please, whether you're chatting in your question via Wahova or Zoom chat or ask, we are here for you and would be more than happy to provide any information that you may want as we go forward. So, Alan, any other final comments from the speed version of course creation?
Just always remember, when you get done after you save complete, make sure that you've hit submit to post, because you'll be waiting for several days and wonder where that course is at and why your consultant hasn't got back to you. Well, it's because we never got the course. So make sure you hit submit to post or it stays on your side.
I see BJ Jones, I haven't talked to you in a while. So one of the questions is, as a coordinator, can you approve your own resume in EDI? Yes, the system will allow it. We prefer, and regulation indicates that you really should have somebody else approving your resume. It's not that we don't trust you, it's the eyes and ears. That second set of eyes on something to make sure you didn't miss something that we may not be aware of, that you have some additional relevant information. EDI is set up that, yes, it will allow you to approve your own. We would hope that you have a partner or colleague in your training unit that can help you and do that for you. I work in the Central Valley. I work with a lot of very small agencies, and in some of my agencies, the chief is also the training manager. There is nobody else with EDI access, so it's kind of a necessary evil to approve your own. So it is an option, but it's not the best. So how's that for a definite, maybe government answer? And I agree wholeheartedly with Alan. Please check the submit to post button. I have had people call post complaining to my bureau chief that I was not reviewing courses, and it's because I didn't know it. We can go in to your side, but we don't as a matter of practice. So if it's their pending submission, we don't typically see it. Alan, or not Alan, Matt, do you have any final words here?
No, just reach out to your LECs if you ever have any issues. And obviously, this stuff's kind of confusing, especially if you haven't made it to the 2-day TCC class or the 3-day training manager class. I would definitely recommend, if you're doing this full time, this is your job for your agency to go to both of those classes. I went to both when I was a training manager and really got a lot out of it. This is a very cursory overview, trying to throw a lot at you. The 2-day class is much more detailed on each one of these points. But reach out to your LECs. If you're from Region 7, please call me if I don't know you, and just say hi, and I'm here for you. I know the other guys feel the same. And thanks for attending the class today. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, so the question about classes being held now. We are starting to schedule some in person, like Matt referenced the TCC. I teach the TAC, Training Administrator. When our COVID restrictions are fully lifted, I'll be back teaching in the 1.5-day class. I will make this offer the best I can, and not speaking for all my other colleagues. I'm teaching a lot online right now. So if you want the 4-hour version of this class for you, for your colleagues, please reach out to your consultant, and they can reach out to me and I can help set it up. Due to some, family medical issues with a child, I'm really staying remote, working remote. So I've been teaching a lot online, both reserve coordinator stuff, background stuff, and training administrator. So I've worked with a couple of the other regional consultants to provide the 4-hour online version. And so if you've got a couple people in your agency or your neighborhood, allied agencies that want this training, we can help set something up to teach it remotely. So as Matt has said in the, both personally and in the chat, please reach out to your regional consultant. If you're in my region, please reach out to me. But I've done some for other consultants in other regions online. So please let us know what we can do for you, because we're here for you. COVID is affecting all of us, both in our professional and our personal lives. So we're trying to do everything we can to be a resource to you and adapt to this. Trust me, I enjoy teaching in person a lot more. So once all these COVID things and health issues get resolved, I will be teaching a lot more in person. And I love to travel. So if any chance I get over to Alan's region or down to Matt's, since I primarily live in the Fresno County area. I love to travel for in person and be more than happy to go help them. But we do have a lot of options. Just reach out to your consultant. Trying to look, see if there's any other. So a question about variable, yes, good question. I see that from Amy. So a lot of times people create a course and they mark the variable box no, and they create an 8-hour course. And then they want to come back and they say maybe they want a 4-hour version and an 8-hour version. Now I think some people have a 4-hour version, and I just had a conversation with one of my presenters this morning that has a 4-hour version. Now they want to expand to 8. So you have two options. You can abandon the 4 and move it to 8, or you can just create a variable and increase it. You really do have some options. And Amy, please send me an email, because I think I know which course you're talking about. I'd be more than happy to work you with that since you're in my region. But yeah, you can always change it from a single version to a variable or vice versa and go from there. Also, if you inherited a course with, let's say, 3 variations, and now you only teach 2, you can delete just 1 variation. So if you had 3 variations and you want to cut it down to 2, that's easy to do. If you don't see the way to do it, then feel free to reach out to your consultant. We can walk you through it. Looks like we got some offers to go to Santa Barbara for training. I think Santa Barbara's always nice. Yeah. I'm always up for road trips. So Alan posted a good resource for the CEI, the course evaluation instrument, which you do have access to through EDI as a presenter. And then you can use that. That's basically the electronic version of the old post Scantron. Some of you remember those Scantrons where you always had, instructor wouldn't let you out of the room until you filled in all the bubbles and left it on the table. And of course, I'm sure none of you knew the pattern of where to put the bubbles and just went through and did the pattern. But yeah, the CEI .post.ca.gov is the digital version of that. So train the trainer courses, that's a managed project out of our training program services. I don't know if they're doing anything as a hybrid, such as online. Matt or Alan, if you have any more details on that, please feel free. But there are some courses. I mentioned PSP Arrest Control is going to a hybrid where some is online and some is in person. I don't know the specific answer to the procedural justice train the trainer because that's not a class that we do with our bureau. But you can reach out to us as well on that. We get a lot of questions about that. They are starting to offer some more presentations, but I'm not sure if they're all in person or if they are virtual. So, thank you to everyone. Our time has come to an end. So I will say class is formally dismissed. So if you need to log off, and I know a number of people already have, and that's fine. But we will keep this open for a little bit longer. We can do that, right, Alan?
Yes, correct.
Okay, you're the host, so I figure I better ask you. So we appreciate your time, some good questions. Please make those modifications for asking for more presentations and updating your course coordinator information at the bottom of the course admin page. Please don't worry about overwhelming your consultant. That's what we're here for. And some of those are very easy presentations for both you to do and for us to get done. Sometimes when I'm in a meeting and it's not my turn to talk, I can just get on my iPhone and start clearing out some courses. Some of them are really that easy. Yeah, the resume builder is a very common question. I would really encourage those links. I don't build a lot of resumes myself because most of the post staff have created them for the courses I do with. So I would really encourage you to look at those links and reach out to your consultant. Again, thank you for those of you that are still here. Thank you. We appreciate the feedback. Yeah, and Matt mentioned, for those of you that aren't watching all the chats, they cover the resume builder in more detail in the TCC course, which TCC is a combination of training manager and training administrator, meaning it teaches some training manager and some EDI. The course that I primarily teach is TAC, which is 100% EDI, and we do talk some about resume builder. But the TCC that Matt referenced, that they teach in his region more often, is probably covers more detail on resume builder than obviously we did today, and that the normal TAC class does. And you can always reach out to your consultant to ask for one of those to be brought to a location near you. Matt, your TCC is online or in person?
In person. The last one we did was in March at San Bernardino Sheriff's Department. Myself and John Turner are looking at doing one possibly in December, either at Rio Hondo or in Redondo Beach. It's still up in the air, but might have one live by the end of the year.
Yeah,
we'll post that in the catalog once it's confirmed.
Yeah, we do a lot through the catalog, and we also advertise through your regional training manager groups, whether that's a CAPTO, California Association of Police Training Officers, which is what I have in the Valley, and some on the Central Coast, or LETMAs. I know down in San Diego, down where I'm at right now physically, they have a lot of LETMAs, law enforcement training manager associations, and some just have regional training manager groups, which are all fine. But we like to do a lot of targeted advertising to meet the needs of our region. So sometimes we advertise in that way first, then put it in the course catalog. And as for any of the resources we provide, the TCC that Matt mentioned, the TAC, Training Administrator, Background Investigation Update, Reserve Coordinator issues, and the like. So you already got people wanting on your Rio Hondo list, Matt.
Yeah, well, I'll actually follow up on it this week. I'm hoping we can make it down there.
With that caveat, for anything in person that Post is doing, we do have the COVID disclaimer that even though we set something up due to the fluid nature of COVID and different regions, although we may schedule something months out, it could change. 2020 has been crazy, as you all know, with COVID, civil unrest, and fires. So we've pretty much had all three impact our in-person business, whether it's compliance or instruction. Great, we still have about 46 people in here, a couple of us from Post. Again, we're gonna hang out a few more, and then we'll get to a point where we have to close the meeting for everybody. So the next class will be using this Zoom account as well. So I believe, I'm not sure, but I believe. So we will have to shut this down in just a little bit. Again, if you have any questions, we're here. I know some people are still show logged on, even though they probably turned off their computer and went to lunch. Randy Waltz, I see you up there in Del Norte. Good to see you.
You're always welcome up here, Jeff.
Well, yeah, my son's still in the hospital here in Rades. I'm at the Ronald McDonald House right now, staying in San Diego for a while. And so anything I can do for you, we'll get you taken care of. Probably be virtual for a while before I get to come up there and check out the views. It's good to see Randy Waltz here. He's been heavily involved with CAPTO. They're representative on the Commission Advisory Board and before taking the new position up in Del Norte County. So thank you for all you've been doing, Randy. Alan, anything on the WAHOVA chats? I don't have access to that at the moment.
Yeah, Jeff, all the questions on WAHOVA have been answered.
Okay.
I was just checking to make sure nothing came in.
Yeah, I'm watching the ones on Zoom as well right now. So, all right, well, we're down to about 28, a couple from Post and 25 others. Randy, have you been going to the other sessions as well?
Yeah, I'm getting the ones that I can. I had to jump out and go speak before the Board of Supervisors yesterday, so that was a little distracting, but I'm getting in as much as I can. I have to get refreshed because I have to teach other people here how to do it.
Well, like I said, if you want me to teach that online TAC for your people, we'll set something up and do it remotely, and I can always get people from other regions to join in since it's virtual. We can set something up with you.
Yeah, okay. That'll probably be good. I have a sergeant and a lieutenant that'll be good to jump in on that.
Yeah, we anticipate probably another 5 days in the hospital, and then I'll be in San Diego for maybe an additional 3 weeks. But I brought everything I need to teach online, so I may set something up from down here. And
worked out well. Looks like you got a good connection and everything.
yeah, I was really worried about that.
All right, well, I'm going to bail out.
All right, I think we're about to close this down. So I'm going to make last call for any questions. You still have three, at least three that I know of, Post consultants. I don't know if there's any others in here. You have at least 3 Post consultants to get your questions from. Get answers. I'm going to give you about 30 seconds to either speak up or throw something in chat. And I said last call for questions while you have us here. So Matt and Alan, question. When
Yes.
when this is over, would you have a minute to jump on a Teams call or something so we can talk for just a minute?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, I have not seen anything in there in the last several
Nope.
minutes. So I think I'm going to shut down the screen share. Going to see who all is left. Oh, looks like we do have a post commissioners, got logins. See a few people still here. A couple from my region. All right. Well, Ellen, I don't see anything else popping up in chat. So why don't we go ahead and last thank you for everybody who may still be listening, but we are going to draw this meeting to an end and close this meeting so the next group can prepare for their afternoon presentation on Zoom of our training managers symposium. Thanks again to everyone.
All right, stay safe, everybody.
Alan, I'll let you close it out and don't forget to log out of Zoom.
And that's an end.
All right, we'll call you on Teams.
Okay.